I'm now joined by Mike Schussler. Mike, thanks so much for your time. We've just had a lot of bad news during the course of the show, talking about Eskom, the outcome, downgrades and so forth. But we're going to be talking about this BankservAfrica survey that seems to have some bit of good news when it comes to how much money South Africa has.
That's right. You know, if you look at the salaries paid in the South African banking system, and one assumes that, well, we know that basically your taxes and often your pension fund and so on is already removed from that salary. So we call it a disposable salary or take-home pay. And that's certainly increased quite a lot, with about 9% in nominal terms, but in real terms it increased with roughly 5%.
I'm just going to stop you there. We're going to bring it up on screen in just a moment. It'll be there. So I'd also like you just to talk to it. So what we'll have will be the real percentage change in disposable income. So again, maybe you can carry on and take us through those particular points there.
Yeah, you can see that in general over the last 12 months or so, you know, that's about a 3% increase that people had for the whole year above inflation. Now this time round it's one of the higher points. You can see it's roughly 5%. That's not because their nominal pay went up so quickly. That's similar to the previous months. It's in fact slightly lower than December. But the fact is that the interest or the inflation rate declined to 3.9%.
Yes.
So ultimately that made that people have a lot more money in their pockets. Now a lot of that is because of the petrol price falling quickly, and I think we're going to see, I wouldn't say a boom in retail, but a much better retail figure than we had the last few months. And this typically works out that way. It may be delayed for a month or so, but it will come through for most people, and you'll see that retail sales will probably come in 2.5%, 3%, maybe even 3.5%.
Mike, you mentioned the fall in the oil price. We benefited from that, obviously, but how long is this likely to last? Tomorrow we've got MPC. Later on in the year we are looking or expecting a rate hike. So this won't leave us with a lot of disposable income, or is that the wrong conclusion to jump to?
No, I don't think it's necessarily that, but I think in general, if you look at this graphic here, it's quite clear that most people in South Africa that have a formal job have over the last few years normally in most months beaten inflation, and that is just what happens. We can go back to the quarterly employment survey, but the BankServ data gives you a very good idea of people's stuff in their bank. But let's just take petrol. Even the increase, the big increase, probably the biggest increase in actual sense, is going to be about 160 cents that we're going to get next week. It's not going to take the oil price or the petrol price back to levels that it was last year April. We'll still be R2 cheaper. So I think that's actually a little bit of positive news for consumers out there.
What's also positive news is the trend that we're seeing in terms of pension and the money that's been saved because of the fact that we've got more money. So it is up on screen there, so maybe you can talk us through those particular movements.
Yeah, we've seen a steady increase in the number or the percentage increase steadily on the pension side, and we think it is to do with the year before's JSE growth, because I think what typically happens here is that trustees of pension funds give their members more, but they wait a while, say a year or 2 years. So when the JSE does perform well a year later, it seems that people get an increase in their actual money that's paid out to them, and on an ongoing basis. And here again, these are real figures. There's over 600,000 people in this number of people that are receiving pensions. It's the first pension index. We do know pensioners receive only about 46–47% of what people in salaries take home, but nonetheless it's also quite clear that it's increasing slightly faster than salaries, and that's quite surprising. We didn't expect that, but the last 2 months have been a bit of an upward movement, as you can see in the graph, in that percentage increase, and that's actually quite good news for pensioners who are on a private pension. And you must remember, you are on a private pension even if you receive a government pension. We're talking on a pension to you that's not, you know, determined by a government social security check. But having said that, you know, we know the median pension is still under 4,000 Rand. So it's tough out there for pensioners. I think they're really just buying bread and milk and really the basics and essentials.
Mike, thank you so much for talking us through